Hi. I know it's been a minute. Sorry. I've been busy. Been trying to find a job. Anybody who saw my last video, I think there might have been 3 of y'all. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got fired. May 23rd, I think it was. Unexpectedly. Yeah. So, that was a Saturday, if I said the right date. And so it's been a whirlwind because I never saved money, never thought past the next bill, I guess. I don't know. 59 years old and never really learned how to save money. Never thought about when I get older, what am I going to do? But I've always had faith, so I still have faith. But I did find a job, and I started last Tuesday. Today is Sunday, so I started last Tuesday. Their pay week is Tuesday through Monday. Never worked at a job where your pay week is not Sunday through Saturday or Monday through Sunday, or who came up with Tuesday through Monday? That's so bizarre to me. But so the pay weekend's Monday, but I still get paid Friday, which is good. So it's not like I have to wait a whole another week, thank God. Because my finances aren't set up to go that long. But ultimately, I also applied for unemployment. Because even though I got fired, I'm like, fuck it. The worst that can happen is they say no. So I did have the work credits. I'd been at that job for 18 months. So that part made it through, but there's still something. I don't know what it is, and it's so hard. I live in Florida. It is so hard to get a hold of a live person at the, it's no longer called the unemployment office. It's now called the reemployment office. So they called me Friday and said that I need to call her back by Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. or they will make their final determination. Now, they haven't even, I can go on my little, reemployment area of their site, and it lists everything and everything that I put in and what they determined, and then I had to go back in because you can only put in every 2 weeks your work searches. So of course the first week you don't get paid, so I put in those searches, and then I did my second week, I put those in, and so it's pending. So out of all of that, I'll get 1 week's worth of pay because the following week I started my job. So the max you can get in the state of Florida for unemployment is $275 a week. That just blows my mind. Who came up with that number? And I understand it's, to get people to go find a job and not sit on unemployment, but you can't do anything with $275. It's really not even worth everything that I've gone through, and I still got to try and reach this lady who I called the number, and it's her, but it's an automated, if you're calling about this, dial this number. If you're calling about this, dial this number. If you're calling, and it's like there's no option in there to speak directly to her. There is an option in there of if you have another issue or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she will come on, and then it's voicemail. Like, okay. So, of course I left a voicemail, but you're going to bet your sweet ass if she calls me back on Monday, I'm answering it. And so that's just turned into a whole kind of thing. But I have made some discoveries through all this. So the job that I had was extremely toxic and very misogynistic. Now, I'm a truck driver, so I'm in a male dominated career. I've been one for 16 years. And I've driven dry van, I've driven tanker, and expediter. That was the best job, expediting. I've done OTR and I've done local. So, so I'm in a male dominated job and with a whole lot of masculine toxicity. And I never thought I would use those words together because I've also been a corrections officer. I worked in a men's medium security prison for 5 years. And you would think if anywhere that would be a toxic, misogynistic kind of job, and it's not. Truck driving, being a female in a truck driving environment that is dominated by men for numerous reasons can be quite exhausting. So working local, I don't want to tell you where I worked, and dealing with men and male supervisors, and just the place I worked. It was the culture of the place I worked, really, when it comes down to. It is the culture of the place that I worked, that who they decided was going to be a supervisor was not based on supervisory skills. It was based on who is moldable, who doesn't rock the boat, who doesn't have opinions, and who will just do as they say. That's it. So when you go to your supervisor with a problem, a legit problem, and they just kind of give you that old, I'll look into it, and then nothing ever happens. And then you end up with a whole bunch of, I'll look into it. And then your job just becomes toxic. And then your boss just avoids you because all you want to do is point out what's wrong, but they don't want to fix it, because their thought is really they'll just quit and find another job, and then we'll just bring another little soldier in, a little Indian. But when you work in an area where everybody wants to be an Indian and nobody wants to be or everybody wants to be chiefs and nobody wants to be Indians, it becomes super toxic. So, and that's what I work with, a bunch of people that have been there, between 7 and 18 years. So, and they all know the problems, and they were all willing to stick it out, and they become extremely toxic. But I digress. Okay, so, but this is what I discovered. So, so I have a plan for my life, as much as we think we can plan for life. And so I'll be 60 in January. So I am fortunate enough, that sounds like a horrible word with the next sentence I'm going to say. I am fortunate enough that I have an ex-husband of 10 years, more than 10 years, who passed away. And because of that, if any of y'all know this, and if you don't, then here it is. If you've been married longer than 10 years to a spouse, and you get divorced, you can claim half of their Social Security as early as 62. Okay, so by the time, so let's say I turned 62, so I have 2 husbands that I was together with longer than 10 years. Okay, so if by the time I turn 62, if my Social Security amount would be $1,000 and their Social Security amount was $2,200, I could draw 50% of their Social Security which would be $1,100, which is $100 more than mine. So I could collect on their Social Security. If you have a spouse, an ex-spouse, that you are married to longer than 10 years, and they pass away, you get to draw closer to 100%, if not 100%, depending on what age you take it at. So I had discovered that my husband that passed away, I would get more than what I would get. Plus, when they pass away, you have the ability, it's widow benefits, survivor benefits. I have the ability to draw that starting at age 60. Excuse me. You can't draw SSI at age 60 normally unless you're on disability. But since I have a spouse that passed away, I can claim survivor benefits, and I can start drawing at 60. Even though we divorced 22 years ago. So I could still, because I've already been to Social Security office, they printed it out, they showed me what I would get if I started at 60, if I waited till 62 with him, and it's really not that much difference. So I would just soon retire at 60 and then work less. And I could still make what I'm making now and be just fine. And I only have to work 3 days a week. So I did the math. You got to stay under $24,480. That means 3 days a week. That's all I'd have to work, 3 8-hour days. And my Social Security check, and I'll make what I'm making now, which is more than enough for me to live on. So, and then here's another, I haven't looked into this because I didn't think about it when I was at the Social Security office. So if I start drawing his at 60, under survivor benefits, I don't think it's the case on just regular. I don't think it's the case. Under survivor benefits, so if I start drawing his at 60, at 70, if my payout at 70 is higher than what I'm getting at the 60, then I could switch over to mine at 70. Okay, sounds good to me. So, so my full retirement age is 67, which means that I'm limited to whatever the Social Security office deems is the dollar amount that I can't go over before they start taking $1 for every $2 I make. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but that's how it works. If you start making, so for 2026, that threshold is $24,480. So I can't make more than $24,480 plus my Social Security. If I do, they start pulling back $1 for every $2. So, and it's up to you to report. You're supposed to be self-reporting. If you have a month that you made more than, I've done the math. I couldn't tell you what the dollar amount is for the month, but if you're supposed to self-report because you can't get into trouble, or you can get a big bill, or you can get that unexpected, 3 months of no checks, and then you're screwed. So you just have to be honest and upfront and tell them, hey, this past month I worked a little bit over what I was supposed to work. And then they'll calculate it out, and then they'll either pull part of it or all of it, but the one good thing is that if they pull it, if you go a month without getting a check because you for some reason decided to work a whole bunch of hours, then it just recalculates in once you hit the 67. So if I over the next 7 years decide to make $10,000 more than what I'm supposed to over the course of those 7 years, that $10,000 when I hit 67, instead of it being $2,000 a month that I get, it might become $2,025. They'll recalculate it in to your new payment at 67. I think that's how it works at 60. I think it's 67. So, okay. So the whole point of this video was, So the job that I was at, that I got fired, that I was miserable every time I had to go into work. I just dreaded it. Um, I think was a blessing in disguise getting fired. Now, of course, it threw me into a dysregulated nervous system. You start freaking out, and you try not to freak out. Um, and I have since realized that, so that's, here's my woohoo. My brother said, your woohoo's showing. So in my world, I believe that everything happens the way it's supposed to. There are no coincidences. Uh, what you declare to the universe that you want, the universe, if you are aligned with that, and you have faith in that to be, you don't know how it's going to happen, you just know it's going to happen. The universe will align everything you need to make it happen. So the job that I was at, I believe that now at that job, I would have, I was going to have to work less hours than the 24 hours in this job, because I made a lot more money at that job. So I could only work, so it's 24 hours here. I think over there, it was only going to be 16 hours. So 2 8-hour days. And I don't think that they would have kept me on for 2 8-hour days. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have. They probably would have made me go into some other department or something. I'm not sure. But I hated the fact that I didn't have weekends off. And I'm pretty sure that if they would have allowed me to stay, those 2 days would have been weekends. Sure, I'd have had Monday through Friday off, but if you're trying to date or have any kind of a social life, you need the weekends, you know? So, and I hated working the weekends. So, and this job that I have now, I don't work the weekends. So, the universe is what put me in the position that ultimately got me fired, that ultimately got me the job that I have the weekends off. And I'm pretty sure that this company will be okay with me working 24 hours a week, either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because those are their busiest days, or I could work, as unappealing as this sounds, Monday through Friday, 4 or 5 hours a day, which is what they need kind of in the morning. I think I think they're flexible enough that I could pull it off. So, because I applied 27 jobs, 27 applications, 27 resumes that I submitted through Indeed, and 3 off of Indeed. Only 3 people reached out to me out of 27. And one, I had a Zoom interview, and it was about 45 minutes away. This one had an in-house interview, and it's only 20 minutes away. And then the third one called me right before the second one offered me a job, and they are 20 minutes away. But that one I didn't know what it paid. So I took this job, and I'm glad I did. All these people are super nice, super friendly, don't micromanage. So it's so bizarre to go in there and not be micromanaged, because for 18 months I've been nothing but micromanaged and hit with microaggressions. And this company doesn't do that. So it's almost like, it's like if you spent your life being slapped and then you walk into somewhere and they're just nice, and you're like, is there going to be do I need to brace for a slap? Is there a slap somewhere? And there's not. So that's how you know, when you look back on a job, how toxic that job was. Because when you go into the new job and you just feel relaxed and not micromanaged and not worried about every little thing that you're doing, then you go, oh shit, that last job was way worse than what I realized. So Um, so I will get to apply for, SSI when I turn 60, and I turn 60 in mid-November. Um, so yeah, so I think it's all working out. Plus, I made a friend. I know it sounds, I don't know, like I'm 12 years old, but um, I don't make friends very easy. Not that I don't try, I just am not an outgoing, chatty, vulnerable human being. Um, I am a Scorpio, so I'm somewhat guarded. And for me, it's almost like baby steps, if not at all, because you get used to being by yourself. So, and I can't do small talk, never could. I can't sit around talking about fashion or clothes or gossip about other people. None of that stuff has ever appealed to me. Growing up, I was always the girl that was hanging out with the guys, being fascinated about talking about cars or racing or um, sports, or just, I don't know. Girls didn't really like me growing up, I guess because I hung out with the guys. Um, so I made a friend, and like I said, there's no coincidences. Everything happens the way it's supposed to when you need it to. So I met this lovely woman, and she is a couple years older than me. She just retired, and she does side hustles. She's got two of them, which I would love to work for myself instead of having to get up and go in at 7 o'clock in the morning and drive a semi. Trust me. Um, so she's got two side hustles. One of my, I was going to start when I lived in Tennessee, but then I never followed through. That's a big problem I have, is follow through. And then she's got another side gig, which I thought was fascinating, and so that's how she gets her 24,480. Um, and then she thinks like me. She's got the same woohoo thoughts that I do. That we manifest our life. Um, we manifest our experiences. We just throw out the rockets of things that we want, and we don't worry about how we're going to get it. We just know that the universe is going to put it together and put us in the right spot for us to gain that either experience or item or whatever it is. So has that helped me through my life? Probably. Um, but it can also be a bad thing. So you have to be careful what you wish for. Because I do have a relationship that I wished for, and then got, and then after the fact realized that was a horrible relationship. And but the packaging was nice, so wait until you see past the packaging to know the person. um, yeah, that was very, one word that I hate using, traumatic, but one day I might tell you about that story. So here I am with my job, and I'm all excited. I'm so excited that when I'm 60, which is, what is today? June. Basically, July, August, September, October, November. 5 months from now, I won't have to work 5 days a week. I'm so exhausted. I'm not really, but I got my first job at 15. I think it was. I think it was 15. 14? I can't remember now. It was Taco Bell. And not at the register. You know, I was the person in the back churning the meat in this giant hot ass pot. It's about the size of half of a whatever the trash cans are, the big plastic. It was huge and it was hot. So that would have been like 66, 76, 1981, 82. And this sounds bad, and I hate to tell you this, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that could tell a horrible, disgusting story. So I would be in there. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. My mom would take me to work. 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd be in there cooking meat. And that my whole job, from what I remember, was just stirring the meat. I don't even know how long it lasted there. And I would sweat. It was so hot. And my sweat would drip into the meat. I'm just stirring away. Yeah. I was adding some extra salt. Sorry. I hope nobody got sick, and please don't come at me. You know, I can't be the only one that's done. There's probably people that's done worse than that, and I don't even want to know. You know, so yeah. So I'm excited. You know. And then I was listening today to YouTube and came through some realizations of life and bad things that happen to us, and we want to live in that like it becomes our coat. You know, that every day when we leave our house, we got to put our coat of our traumatic events on us so we can go out in the world and show that we're a victim. You know, I didn't do this, they did this to me. You know, and so this show that I watched on YouTube, this podcast, taught me a few things about life and things that happen to you and how to reframe it into instead of why did this happen to me, how did it benefit me? So whenever I first got fired, if I reframe that, that's really how this all came about. If I reframe the firing, it's what's going to lead to me to be able to retire at 60. And now, was it a traumatic way to get me to that point? Absolutely. You know, but if you reframe that, you know, it wasn't really traumatic. It was just, it made me resilient and quicker to think on my feet. So, but if I take that same potential of reframe back to my relationship that I just got out of a couple years ago, that was absolutely traumatic and loaded with betrayal and manipulation and cheating, and go, okay, this relationship should have ended well before this. And I allowed it to continue. I saw the flags. I saw the problems. But I chose to try and continue it until it got to the point where it was just a train that just absolutely ran me over and destroyed me. And that's what it took for me to end it. Even though I knew 2 years before that I could have ended it peacefully. So was it my fault? I'm not saying that. But I do have to take some responsibility in the fact that I allowed that to go on too long. And that's what destroyed me. So, if you look at things through reframe, it makes it a little bit more bearable for some situations. It makes it more hopeful for other situations. So it makes that relationship and how it ended bearable. And it makes my job and being fired and what comes after, it became a necessity to get me there and to realize, to reframe why it had to happen makes it better. So now we just have the faith in the idea that I can definitely retire at 60. Now, am I going to stress about working? Because I will be one of those people that is going to have to work. But I won't have to work as much. Do I stress about if I need more money? It's not like I can, well, no, I take that back, because if I need more money, then all I do is I work more hours, and then I tell Social Security, and they hold that money until a later date, and then I get a higher payment. So if I get in a situation that the money that I'm making between Social Security and this job is not cutting it, I can always work more, which first I'd have to work over and above what my Social Security is. But that's okay. I'm willing to accept that, because even though they want you to plan for the future, all that ends up happening is you stress about the future. Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. No, we gotta be here now. We gotta be present now. We gotta live intentionally right now, because the future isn't promised. I might not be here in 10 years. I might not be here in 3 years. And if I sit here and stress about what am I gonna do before I hit my full retirement age, or before this or before that, and just stress out, I haven't enjoyed this moment. And then I ultimately passed away in 3 years, so I was stressing over nothing. And all that stress is probably what ended up killing me. So live intentionally now. That's what I'm trying to do. Live intentionally today, because there's no guarantee for tomorrow. I know it sounds cliche, but there's no guarantee for tomorrow. So enjoy today. We have no promises of the future. But I hope you gleaned something off of, everything that I said. Hopefully, I shared something that somebody needed to hear. But my name is Vicki. I am a recovering, unexpectedly divorced woman. No other way to put it. And I'm just telling you what I'm doing, that we're all trying to do. We're all trying to be human beings on a planet that we've never been human on before. We're souls having a temporary physical experience and trying to enjoy the journey. And sometimes it can get ugly. Sometimes being an adult absolutely sucks. But you gotta find the moments that are tolerable. And you gotta figure out what these experiences are trying to teach you, so you don't keep having the same experiences. But anywho, thank you for listening, and I hope you got something out of it. And I will keep you updated And I'll try not to stay gone as long as I did before. But enjoy the journey. I know my life's been crazy, and I'm sure yours has too. But I'll see y'all again. I love you. Take care. Bye.